It's a really great race that I really like. I won it last year, would like to go back and repeat. So we'll see if I can make that happen.
Okay. Well, later in the Zwiftcast, we're going to be hearing from Scotty Weiss, who has also had a race he's been targeting for the last 4 or 5 years. And as many Zwifters will know, there was some pretty good news around that, but we'll get to that later. Now, my other partner in crime, Shane Miller, can't be with us this episode, but we've got the next best thing. No live llama, but we have recorded llama. As regular listeners will know, Shane and I spent some time at Eurobike a couple of weeks ago, and while we were there, we checked out Zwift in virtual reality. Here's how Shane got on when he stepped into the immersive 360 3D world for the very first time. So Shane, tell us what we're seeing.
So they've got one of the new kickers on a really beautiful Canyon bike, and we have Zwift with Oculus Rift.
So Shane's going to jump on the bike and put the goggles on and start pedaling. I'm told it's as simple as that. It's going to be really interesting to get a reaction from Shane, because I've seen this and it is awesome. It's so difficult to explain. It's going to be really interesting to see if Shane is able to explain. Shane's putting the headset on. Looks to be a bit of a tight fit, a bit of adjustment going on.
This is it.
So what I want you to do, Shane, is just like give me your instant gut reaction to what you're about to see. It's pretty special.
As an Aussie, I really know how to swear, so I hope you've got the bleep button ready if this is good. All right, let's go into the other world. I'll be back. I think is all about I've got. This is absolutely surreal, guys. Okay, anybody? No. I'm just about to go up to the Watopia start line. I've looked behind my shoulder and saw the big, the alien statues up on the hill. I'm coming past somebody now. This is just so natural. The looking around, looking sideways. I'm looking back at the blimp out to my left. I'm looking down.
Shane's now looking down at his own feet, and when I did this was the thing that kind of blew my mind.
I can see what gear I'm in, and I'm looking down at my front derailleur. Going past the pier now, I'm looking sort of sideways at the pier, but the head movement, there's no lag. There's no lag at all. The integration of this, usually I've done a lot of VR stuff in the past when it first came along, but this is now, someone just went past me.
When people get near you, it feels like you're invading their personal space, doesn't it?
I was going to slap that guy in the bum as he went past as a bit of a g'day, mate, but I can't catch him. Okay, now the elevation as well, the visuals of the elevation are real. The road is really pop. Okay, there's a very few wow things in this world. It
really is a wow moment, isn't it?
This is one of those things where you'll never ever be able to see what it's about unless you try it. I've ridden up Watopia Wall thousands of times. This is a first. And I feel like I can reach out and just touch the barriers on the side. This is giving me goosebumps. This is phenomenal. And the great,
So I'm with the Zwift guys who've been helping people to get their heads around this all week at Eurobike. Is Shane's reaction that we're seeing there, is that a very typical one?
Oh yeah, definitely. That's what we got all week so far. People are literally amazed from the VR. It's a really nice piece of equipment, and yeah, I personally think it's the future.
I could live in this world. I think I have lived in the virtual 3D world of this, but this is just something else. Okay, now here's something that's surreal as well. A blimp has just gone past, and we're at the location where they actually make the Zeppelin. So I'm sure I'll take the VR glasses off, and if a blimp goes past as well, the Zeppelin goes past. I don't know what's real.
Now, Nathan, the American critic, I'm old enough to remember this, the American critic John Landau once said, "I've seen the future of rock and roll, and it is Bruce Springsteen." Have we seen the future of Zwift, and is it virtual reality?
I actually had, prior to seeing these videos and these reactions, I hadn't really thought about virtual reality being like the advertised yet in any way, and there's going to have to be a whole new version. I mean, that they're going to have to come out with to make it a reality. That will have to be geared towards people who are going to work out and do virtual reality.
VR, listen, they do say down there, I've seen VR coming and going for the last decade, and I'm sure you have too, but they do say that this time it's going to stick, and they really have got it right this time. And this is only first generation equipment. I'm surely it's going to evolve pretty quick, don't you think?
Oh, definitely. I see it all over the social medias continually. There's starting to be some live streams that are really focused on the VR. I think that the integration between physical movement and figuring that out correctly, and then how you were experiencing the game, I think those two have taken a long time to get right, but it seems like we're starting to head in the direction where, they're starting to get it down.
Eric and the team at Swift HQ have been hinting broadly, largely with a picture of like a hell of a lot of Alienware PCs in a warehouse somewhere, that they're taking Swift out on the road this autumn or fall, as you can say, and winter, and really pushing the hands-on Swift experience, which, as we both know, and as probably everybody knows, is kind of the best way to sell the platform. And it looks to me as though they're going to be including VR in these Swift stations. I mean, I guess why wouldn't they? But the other question is, why would they really? Because this is, it's not going to be massively accessible to everybody because of price. And as we've already alluded to, it's not, ideal yet for exercise-based things. But why do you think they would show it off just because they can?
Yeah, I would think there's a huge wow factor. You're there experiencing it from the outside looking in, and while you're on the trainer watching your avatar, but then when you actually jump into it and look around in the world and see the other avatars and see the other people in there, I think it actually gives somebody an immersive experience to say, okay, Swift is this cycling world that I can interact with. And I think looking down the road and seeing what's coming, people are more apt to invest in that too. Because a trainer setup and all that, it's an investment, and you're setting up this space for you to work out. And so I think that people then are like, well, we know that Swift is committed to building this long term, and I want to be a part, especially if this is the experience I'll get eventually too.
Okay, well, that is all interesting stuff coming down the line. But what's with us right now, where there's been big development in the last few days, is the Swift Academy. Now, more than 100 women have spent all summer completing a rigorous program of training and tests and assessments. And now 12 of those ladies have made it through to the next stage of the program. And this program, we need to remember, is aimed at identifying someone who has got what it takes to become a pro rider for the Canyon SRAM team. So let's meet one of those semi-finalists. Welcome to the Zwiftcast to Rachel Elliott. Rachel, how you've managed to complete the Academy workload whilst smashing PBs all summer in time trials is a bit of a mystery to me. So what's your secret?
Well, it's a bit of a mystery to me as well. It was pretty tough to fit everything in. I was racing 2 or 3 times a week, every week. And trying to fit in these pretty horrific training sessions was very difficult. So it was sort of a matter of targeting races and doing hard training sessions the day before less important races, and just trying to get my priorities right. But it was pretty tough.
Well, it's obviously worked out. I mean, you have been streaking over time trial courses this summer, and now you've got through to the Academy. So I'm going to ask you the traditional question. How did it feel when you got the news?
I was very, very pleased. I didn't expect to get in at all. There's some incredibly strong ladies there you see in all the group training rides, so I genuinely didn't expect to get through. I knew I'd made an improvement across the summer. The training sessions had really helped, but I genuinely didn't think I'd get in. I
think you're perhaps the only one who thinks that, Rachel. looking at some of your times on the outside stuff. Obviously, I've not seen much of you on the Academy. How's the programme been? I mean, obviously, there's been like loads of sessions to complete, which I gather have been getting progressively harder. But it seems to me that one of the great things about it's been perhaps being part of the Academy community. Is that right?
Yes, I mean, it's been absolutely brilliant. I've never seen so many women cycling, and so many women sort of cycling so well. I've never followed a training program like that in my life myself, and some of the sessions were pretty tough, but sort of the support of the ladies saying, "Oh yes, I found that tough too," it really helped to get through it. It was good to be able to chat to the ladies, and we were all going through the same thing, and everyone found them equally as tough. No matter what your power is, they're equally as tough for everyone. Your heart rate's doing the same thing. So I think it was great to be able to have all those ladies there to talk to.
It always helps, doesn't it?
Yes,
Yes. So what's next? I mean, final 10. Sort of get past the ski. Just fostering this great community's career. Just get doing hard work on virtual riding and trails. It is actually a recruitment for a pro team. I mean, could you go on?
Well, I guess that depends on how I do in the final few months, but we'll see how it goes. There's some very, very talented ladies out there. I've been stalking and seeing who else has got through. There's a few ladies who aren't there who I thought might be, so there's some pretty strong competition, so we'll just see how it goes, and as they say, I'll enjoy the journey.
Yes, you're already sounding like a professional sportsman, which
Right, I don't know.
it's like one day at a time, isn't it? We'll take the next race, is it? And it's just now a process of attrition, isn't it? The 10 will get whittled down through ever harder workouts and sessions. What do they get whittled down to next?
It's down to 3, so the final 3 is invited to the Canyon SRAM training camp, and then it's whittled down to the final 1, so it's 10, then 3, then 1.
And seriously, be honest, how do you bring the chances of making the final 3?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I'll see how it goes. I mean, I'm not racing. My time trial season finishes in early October, so I'll have more sort of energy to put into the training sessions, but we'll just see how it goes. And I'm just pleased to get where I am, and I'll just play it by ear for now and just see how I get on.
Well, many, many congratulations from me.
Actually, good luck to all the other ladies as well who got through.
Nathan, has Lindsay taken part in the academy?
Lindsay, her exact quote was, "I only want to do something if I can do it all the way," and there just wasn't really a time. And then eventually, also, she's like, "I got the pro contract, I couldn't do it." It was like, why would I go after this? And she gets pretty focused and like, okay, I'm after this thing. So I think that was the main reason why she didn't participate.
Yeah, I can completely understand that. The more I've talked, and there's 2 other interviews on this podcast with semi-finalists, but the more I've talked to the women involved, the more impressed I've been about the whole Zwift Academy thing, and the more surprised I've become that Zwift are not shouting about it much louder. It's an amazing scheme.
I'm talking about it almost during every single live stream of the races I'm doing, because there's always these ZA riders that are in there, always these women who are participating in our live stream races, and I'm hyping it up, and I think it's such an amazing program. And I was like, yeah, Zwift hasn't really been shouting about it at all on the social medias or anything, or all these other places, so I was also extremely surprised by that. I mean, I'm not exactly sure why that is.
Well, I guess they're just being patient, aren't they? And patiently building and I think, we need probably to be honest about why they're doing this. I mean, I think they're doing it because they genuinely believe they're doing a good thing and supporting cycling. And they've got a bit of a track record in that area, so it pays not to be too cynical. But I think one of the reasons they're doing it is because Zwift have identified female cycling as a potentially enormous growth area, and if they can patiently build a community of female cyclists, that looks to me as though, if what they believe comes true, is going to be a really great business decision.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so I can definitely see that, and they do have a really strong community building. You see the ZA badges all over the place. Have you seen the new kit that workouts and direct interaction going on with some background coaching directly through the ZA program. All the workouts had a very clear layout. I mean, and looking at the workouts that they were given, they were high caliber. So, I mean, they did a very good job of supporting the entire program for sure.
Yeah. So, yeah, kudos to Zwift for that. And I actually hope that they do shout about it a bit more, because I think they deserve some recognition for it. Next up, I've got an interview with a guy called Andrew Tillin. Now, Andrew writes for an American magazine called AUSSI. That's a big mag in America, isn't it, Nathan?
Yeah, it's huge. Like you see it, it's almost like a household name as far as the magazines go amongst active lifestyles people.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's huge.
Yeah, I mean less familiar in Europe, but it is available online. But possibly counterintuitively, given the title of the mag, Andrew's just done a long, in-depth piece on Zwift, and I wondered what he found out. Welcome, Andrew.
Thank you so much for having me, Simon.
Let's plunge straight in. What did you discover?
Well, I discovered a considerable amount of passion for something that I have historically loathed, which is indoor riding.
Yeah, and of course, I mean, people should know you're a very decent cyclist yourself. You're an ex-racer and a lifelong rider. And I guess as part of this assignment, you spent some time on Zwift. What have you personally made of it?
I find it appropriate and compelling and useful and actually fun in myriad ways.
Yeah. How deeply did you immerse yourself in the subject? I mean, I don't want to spoil the piece, but what were some of the kind of more interesting things you found out?
Well, I think, you get on and the first thing you feel is utter cynicism. I mean, I'm like I say, like you said, I've been riding my bike for a long time. I've been racing and indoor training, and I can't stand riding the trainer, and I don't care how many videos I have, movies, music. It has never been compelling for me. And so you get on this and you just sort of don't think it's going to be very fun. And really, I think the first time, I had to climb the major hill in Watopia, and the KOM stuff drops down there on the screen, and suddenly you're not chasing the cheese. I mean, it's almost reflexive, and I found myself sort of getting in, trying really hard and laughing at myself. And here I am, alone in my living room, me, my bike, a trainer, and television and a computer, and I am killing it. I'm doing everything I can. And so that's what I think when you sort of realize that this is compelling in the way that its predecessors have not been.
Yeah. So you started as a cynic. How quickly were you converted? Was it literally the first KOM?
nice life. I've lived the life of a 25-year-old. Now I've got kids, I've got work, I've got obligations. I mean, it's a huge victory for me to throw my leg over the bike, when it comes to being on the trail and engaging in Zwift. And to me, that can be a glorious victory and a wonderful moment. And yes, it's not going to your hair. And I'm glad that the internet is just full of trolls who are just making trouble wherever they can. You gotta just roll with it. So I would say that different strokes for different folks. And I think Eric, or like I say, you or I mean, we would all probably prefer to be out riding under the blue sky on a sunny day. But if we can't have that, boy, this is an awfully great alternative.
Well, that's a really interesting view, and particularly well articulated, I think, actually. The other big piece on Zwift, and I know it's something that the Zwift execs and the users think about an awful lot, is community. For Zwift to be successful, it's got to be underpinned, supported by an endorsed by an active community. What did you make of what you found out about community?
That's a great question. I think the Zwift sort of ride calendar is, in some ways, the most impressive aspect for me to the whole endeavor. I mean, there's a rider shirt on the Zwift Academy. I think that's really cool. And there are other aspects of even this podcast, right? And this Nathan Garrett race commentating. I mean, that's just more technology than I can wrap my head around. It's ridiculous. But, you go to that calendar, and I did that early on. I did the Richmond Group ride. Even just sort of being among people, so I'm from Austin, Texas. I mean, here's a rider from Israel, here's a rider from Japan, here's a, and we all know what the other ones are doing in their kitchens and hallways and living rooms. They're all doing what we're doing. They're surfing, they're swimming, they're enjoying themselves, all three of those things. And so I find that calendar and the group rides, when I'm successful in really finding them and participating, to be big achievements.
Do you think Zwift will permanently change cycling, or is that really a silly question? Is it just that we've got smart, or Zwift have got smart at finding, just another way to ride your bike?
Yeah, I would hope for the former, and I think the latter. I mean, there's a barrier of entry to cycling that's not just about the equipment. There are stray dogs, there are oblivious pedestrians, there are texting drivers, there is glass in the road, there is you and the fact that maybe you don't look like a tour rider in your Lycra. There are all sorts of barriers to getting on a bicycle. And if this gets anybody who otherwise wouldn't to try to ride a bike, I mean, for all the reasons that so many of us ride, isn't that a good thing?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not trying to sound like a Zwift poster child here, because it's my job to sort of see both sides. And yeah, I can miss the sunshine on a 30-mile Zwift ride. But the flip side is that I think there are lots of people that are on Zwift that might not otherwise try riding a bike. And sometimes when you get in the group rides and you see the doctors and the dentists and the journalists and, the school teachers who have spent disproportionate amounts of money on bicycle parts, you're just kind of like, well, what are we chasing here? Aren't we all here just to ride? And Zwift, in a way, allows you to do that.
That's a really, really interesting viewpoint. It sounds like it's going to be a very thoughtful piece. It is both print and online, isn't it?
Yes, it will be online third week of September. So it's, of course, already out in print. It's the October issue.
Well, I'm sure lots of Zwifters will be looking forward to reading it, and it's actually really been absolutely fascinating hearing about your experiences with the platform, particularly given your background and given the job that you do. Thank you very much indeed, Andrew, for your time.
Thank you, Simon. I appreciate the opportunity.
Now, Nathan, Andrew obviously contacted you for that piece. Interesting, I think he clearly set out a cynic and came away a convert.
Yeah, when I first talked to him, he had so much surprise in his voice, actually. It was like every other question was like, huh, what, role? And then he came and watched the live stream of the races, and then after that he was like, all these questions in the chat, and then he was emailing me, and then on the phone. I mean, it was like question after question. He was like, so you're actually talking to people, like, while you're riding through some sort of voice interaction? And I mean, it was like question after question. It was really great, actually. A big eye-opener, you know? And so I think that had something to do maybe a little bit with like loss of cynicism, you know, and like, okay, maybe outdoor and indoor can interact a whole bunch.
Yeah.
So that was a cool conversation with him.
And interesting, you know, the Oscar is timed perfectly for Swift, and I get the sense that we're going to be seeing a big push this fall and winter from Swift. People who watch the company's activities closely might have seen that they're hiring, they're looking to recruit a marketer, particularly for the North American market. Do you think we're going to see a massive push on Swift in the next couple of months?
Oh, I think it's going to be huge. I think that this, especially this marketing position that's being opened up, is going to connect them to the industry in some amazing ways. It sounds like they're looking for a very qualified person in the bike industry and the active lifestyle industry, etc. Getting connected with gyms, bike shops, you know, there's going to be a big focus, I think, also with the push into the U.S. market. It's funny, most of my viewers, or a lot of my viewers, are from Europe. I got a huge contingency of people from the UK and other countries over in Europe, and then I think I look at my stats, and it's like, I think the top is Great Britain and then the U.S. actually, and I think there's been more of a push over there actually a little bit, and I think we're going to see a whole big influx from the U.S. market actually this next. I think from every market, but I think they're starting to really focus over here now too.
Yeah, well, certainly the US is a huge market, and I mean, do you think the Swifties who are on the platform at the moment are all early adopters, or do you think it's already a mainstream product, or is it about to become a mainstream product?
Ooh, mainstream product, that's a loaded word. I think a loaded statement there, because I'm not even sure cycling's a mainstream product here, and we're working on that. I think Swift is going to be more of a part of that too, but I think in the cycling world, yes, I would definitely say that it's going to become a mainstream product. I hear at races, when I'm at the races over and over again, how do I get involved in Swift? How do I do this? What's going on with Swift? And people are really starting to look forward to how they're going to handle their training this winter. And it was something that was on their radar last year, but I think it's a little bit more where I've got shops asking how to do this. I've got, you know, and there's technologies they used to use that people are not as interested in, and they're like, this is the new thing, let's try this.
Yeah, well, it's certainly going to be a very, very interesting upcoming season for the platform. It sounds as though we're going to see a huge influx of new riders, which is going to be very exciting. Okay, let's catch up with another semi-finalist from this terrific scheme we've been hearing about, the Swift Academy. And welcome to the podcast to Leah Thorvaldson, who is a Academy semi-finalist, and I'm going to ask you that most traditional questions, Leah. How did it feel?
Oh my gosh. It was, waiting for that announcement was the longest, I want to say about 48 hours of my life, because it was just like going on every place that it could be posted and just refreshing and refreshing and refreshing. I started at one point looking at the 100 and just of names that I knew going like, oh yeah, she's probably going to get in. And after I got past about 10 women, and I was just like, I've got to stop this. I've got to stop this because it's not going to do any good. So it was just so exciting. But then of course it's hard because a lot of the women that I had pegged as sure things didn't make it. And suddenly it's like you want to celebrate, but you feel bad for people that have been, they're going through the same thing you are and they didn't make it. And there's so many worthy people, based on what I could see, which wasn't as much as the judges could see, but you kind of are sitting there going, it's this complete exhilaration combined with, I don't want to say guilt, but it's just like, shoot.
Sympathy
being a true professional, I have a better shot at cycling than I probably ever did with running, but running was my first thing. That was my first love, and I got close enough to being professionally competitive. I mean, I guess I made some money, so I guess you could say technically I was professional, but I was never on a salary as a runner. It was just, marathon winnings and such. But it became your life. It really became my identity. And when I sustained some injuries that the doctor said, I was just like, okay, well, how bad? How long is the recovery? What's the surgery? And they're like, you may not be able to run again. We're just talking about doing things to get you back to comfortably daily living. I just wanted something to do to be able to get back out and get back active and be surrounded by like-minded people, and found this running or cycling community that was just as wonderful as the running community I'd been part of. So now it's just crazy. It's like something that I don't know. It's crazy.
Would you like to be a pro cyclist? I mean, it looks to me, what do I know? But it looks like you may have what it takes. Would you like to be a pro cyclist?
Well, I mean, absolutely. Now, I will say this. I will say this full and well. I think that, and someone made a comment about this on the Facebook page, and they said, I don't think half these women even, they're having these conversations and they don't even understand what it takes to truly be a pro. I had emailed someone at Zwift the other day, and I was like, I'm just taking this one day at a time. But I said, but something that I need to know is if I were to be selected, is this a thing? Like, is this something people do alongside their careers, or is this? And she's like, no. and I kind of didn't figure, but at the same time, you don't know, because with running, it absolutely was. It was weekends and you fit in the training around your job. But it was not, it wasn't a full-time job. And I don't know what a contract pays an athlete, but I do know that it's, your life. I do understand the dedication that it takes to be a professional or an elite athlete, that it's just like some of the things that you do now where it's like, oh, okay, I can have that extra beer. I can lose that extra 2 hours of sleep. I can, not watch my nutrition. And I tend to like pretty healthy food anyways, but just all those little things that you have to dial in. I would love. It would be just a dream experience. It's hard to fathom that I'm that good. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I'm just yes. Bring it on.
And that is so great to talk to somebody who is so excited about the prospects of being a pro cyclist. And just finally, in a few words, has this been a good program?
Absolutely. Yeah, well, you asked me for a few words, and I'm sure you've already realized I can get really long-winded when I talk about something I'm excited about. But
if you can wait a few months to see what happens, the flux could definitely be the one there. It's going to purely come down to accuracy. I was talking with folks in the industry, in the trainer industry, 2 nights ago, and everyone's incredibly nervous. They will look at the Flux 2 as a new good option. Basically, not Flux 2, the Flux is a new good option in a trainer in that particular 800 to 1200 range. And if tax can show it, and if they can go ahead and make it accurate, that's game over. Like that is a kicker killer. End of story. Just box it up and call it done. If, however, they struggle to do both those things, then Wahoo's going to continue to do well.
Okay, next, wheel off trainer. Just to clarify, wheel off or wheel on? Sorry, wheel on. I'm not at the very bottom of the market, so I suppose we're talking around about the kind of kicker snap area. What would be your trainer of choice there, right?
Okay. So it's a really interesting spot. I want to say to some degree, a lot of those end up being about the same. To be honest, I think that's becoming a very crowded market, which is awesome for consumers. And that $500 to $600 range, where you've got kicker snap, you've got Vortex, you've got Machino, you've got Rampa from Elite, you've got Magnus from Cyclops, and Be Cool, and I'm probably forgetting some. They're very, very similar. I think what people want to focus on is sort of really two areas when they're trying to decide that market is one. If you have some sort of up-level resistance requirement that you want, either in terms of wattage, which isn't usually a problem, but incline. So if you're one that loves to go and ride, re-ride, and outdo it as every week, then you want to pay attention to that. For a lot of people, that may not actually matter that much, and 10% for a lot of those will be fine. But there's a couple I think that are like 12.5 and 15%, so you may want to keep that in mind. To accuracy, most of them are all honestly 5 plus or minus 5%. I'm seeing really good stuff with the Cyclops Magnus prototype that I have being more accurate than the 5% they're claiming. So that's something that that could be a very appealing trainer. I like some of the nuances they've done on design and style of that trainer in terms of how you lock in the roller resistance wheel, make it a bit harder to screw up, to be honest, and it's easier to calibrate. So to me, it's going to be nuances that decide that category, and I think a lot of that's going to be personal choice.
It is a very crowded area, that one. What's your personal favourite?
I am leaning right now. I want to see a production unit of Magnus, but I think if a production unit of Magnus is as clean as the early summer prototype I have, I think that may take that category, just barely. At the same time, Tax has options that are a couple $100 cheaper that are really just as good. That again, it really depends on market and where you are. Like in Europe, you can get Tax trainers super cheap because of the way the pricing systems work. So those, for that cost, if I was buying in Europe, I'd probably say, I'd just go with the Vortex because you're going to save $200, $300 and the nuances aren't that big a deal to me. Just to kind of give people an insight behind the industry and how this works a little bit, obviously Elite and Tax are European based, and so when you buy a trainer in the US, you have something called MAP, or minimum advertised price, or buy a lot of products in the US. It could be a GoPro, it could be Garmin, it could be a trainer, it could be dishwasher. It doesn't really matter. The US is one of the few countries in the world that allows a company to enforce pricing and cut retailers off if they price below something. So that's why you always see, the GoPro at $399, not $398, not $397, or any other price. Is because if they go below that, then GoPro comes along and says, okay, you don't get to sell anymore, and that's legal. In Europe, that's highly legal. And in fact, even if a Tax or Elite were to hint at a retailer to change their prices, they'll get fined 20% of their net sales for the year, which is a massive, massive fine. So that doesn't happen. The result of that, and why this whole discussion actually matters, is that you'll find companies in Europe that are willing to sell trainers to the US and to other markets at much reduced prices. That's great until something goes wrong. And if you want a fun science experiment, go ahead and go online to FedEx or UPS or even the US Postal System or whatever your postal system is in your country, and put the shipping cost for a 50-pound object that is the same size back to Europe, and that's what you'll have to pay twice, because then you have to pay to return it again. And for some people, that risk is worth it. I'm not saying go and buy in the US, not at all. I'm making people aware of that risk because I've heard the sob stories on the blog and comments where people have bought something from a European retailer, shipped it to the US because it was free, it was a great deal, and then something broke, and they end up paying more than the trainer
riders winning races after training and preparing on Zwift seems to keep on growing. And the latest is a guy that keen Zwifters will know very well indeed. He goes by the name of Scotty Weiss. I hate to use this word, but you're a Zwift celebrity, Scotty.
Well, thank you for that. I don't think I would call myself a celebrity, but I appreciate it.
Well, listen, in the traditional sense of the word, celebrity, you're very well known on Zwift, and that's because you've been there right from the beginning and have been incredibly prominent and really, really helpful to lots of people who are new to the platform, and you still appear very frequently on Zwift. But the reason I've got you on is to talk about something that's just happened over this summer in Austria, and that is you winning handsomely two really, really impressive races. So let's start by, why don't you tell us what the event was?
The World Master Cycling Foot Federation, the World Championships, basically.
And is that as important as it sounds to be, Scotty?
I think it's very important. It's an event that's been going on for 40 plus years, and I thought one day I would like to go there and give it a shot workout this year, in a big way, actually.
Well, it did work out in a big way, because you didn't win just one event, you won two. So talk us through the first one, which was the time trial event.
Right, so the time trial, I'm a smaller guy. I weigh around 117 pounds, give or take. 5'6", so the time trial for me has always been, it's tough for a small guy to produce the power that you need.
Just because Zwifters are completely fascinated by numbers. What's your FTP?
My FTP is somewhere around 309 to 320, depending on when I, give it a test.
Yeah, and I mean, that's not a big power output for time trialists, is it?
I don't think it is, no. The key for me is to be really super aero in the real world racing. In Zwift, I know it's not quite as important, so the power number makes a big difference. But in a real world racing, the time trial you have to be, if you have a lower number, you have to do whatever you can to be fast. So that was my strategy.
And how long a time trial was it?
It was 20K.
Right, and what was your time?
My time was 25 minutes, I believe.
Wow. And in old-fashioned money, do you know what average miles per hour that was?
Yes, it was 29.5.
Wow, that's pretty good.
It was one of the better TTs I've had. I was totally building for, the event this year, and I worked hours and hours and hours on Zwift, actually, riding not only on the trainer on my TT bike, but also on the rollers on my TT bike, using Zwift, and watching power numbers and heart rate and cadence.
And dialing in your position, your aero position.
For sure. I actually did change my position this year based on what I saw. My numbers, like riding Zwift, you can pay attention to your numbers. And, I saw that maybe I wasn't in quite the position I needed to be to produce the power, and I messed around with the position and actually raised my power a bit in game, and then in the real world it actually transferred over.
Yeah, and that's a really interesting aspect of being able to rehearse a time trial position indoors, isn't it? Because the thing is, you've got fewer distractions, so you can actually change your position and tweak it and see what that does to the numbers, not in terms of how you're cutting through the air maybe, but in terms of how you're able to produce power in a new and different position.
Exactly, and that was what I was focused on, not so much being aero when I was riding Zwift, but I was looking more at the comfort level and the power and the cadence.
Yeah.
If I could dial that in, then I knew working on being a little more aero outside, we could bring it together and make it happen.
And that you did, and on that, just enormous congratulations. And there was a wellspring of good feeling from the Zwift community when they saw that. But then it got better and better and better, because 2 days later you entered the road race, and guess what? You came first there too. So talk us through that. How long was the event?
Well, so the road race was 112K. It was 3 laps of a circuit that included, I think, about a 1 mile or so climb, and then a short climb.
And anybody who has been anywhere near you on Zwift, of course, knows that as soon as the road goes up, we don't see you for doors.
Well, I've always been looked at as a more of a climber, just because of my size.
And just talk us briefly through the final of the road race. Were you out on your own, or?
Some very strong guys came up to me, and we formed a break of 4 guys. One of the guys in particular, former World Masters champion as well. So I actually knew 2 of the guys in the move, and so we worked together. And we put 5 minutes on the field, and that's when I started to get a bit worried, because the finish was a flat. Basically, it was going to be a sprint. So I started thinking, what am I going to do? Thanks to Swift, Tuesdays and Thursdays, I was doing those sprint workouts, working on sprinting on the rollers out of the saddle, and then transferring that over into real life. So I was super confident that I could win the sprint. And so I jumped the guys. I jumped them hard at 500 meters, and I never looked back.
It must be a great feeling.
Oh my goodness. It was almost like a dream. Like I couldn't believe it. I mean, that was my 4th attempt at Worlds, and I knew I could always do it. And a lot of people believed in me, and I think I honestly started believing it more than ever in myself, and I got it done. I'm really, really happy. I want to thank everybody that did send me, the messages and emails and the kudos on Strava. It's been amazing.
And the marketing guys at Zwift are very fond of this phrase. Zwift today, win tomorrow. But
sure.
There's a bit of truth there, isn't there?
There really is. I really did focus on a goal 4 years ago when I retired, but since Swift has come along these last 2, I've actually increased almost every part of my cycling skill. I know it's indoors, but a lot of times I ride rollers, and so when you're sprinting on rollers against a group of 50 guys in Swift, sometimes you lose your balance, and it builds on your balance and your power. I mean, it's great. I can't say enough about it.
You're living proof that it works, and on behalf of I'm sure literally hundreds, probably thousands of Swifters who've seen you on the island and elsewhere, I'd just like to say congratulations, and fantastic, and really, really well done.
Thank you very much, and I really appreciate you having me on the show. I listen to your podcast all the time, and I think it's great. So thank you.
That's very kind of you to say, Scotty. Thanks very much indeed. And Nathan, Scotty Wise, I mean, you know him so well, don't you? Because he's just in front of just about every Zwift race he enters, isn't he?
Yeah, actually, the way that I know him is from Beta originally. When I first got in, he was one of the first guys to come into my live streams while I was riding. One of the first guys I would ride with. And actually, lately we've been doing a little reminiscing in the live stream where I'll bring up pictures of me, him, and Lawson Craddock doing intervals together out on Jarvis, actually. I've got all these F10s saved, right? Push F10 and grab all these pics. These large groups with Jonathan Page and me, Lawson Craddock, and Scotty Weiss. We're all hammering on each other on the little 3 Mile island. And so I've known Scotty a long time. He's actually, almost every time I go live, he jumps into live stream with us. We chat pretty often.
Yeah, no, he's a big fan of Zwift, and I'm sure, it was obvious on Facebook just how his winning
race right before. So in the KISS race is the larger races right now. And then the ZTR race right before, we're talking over 200 racers showed up in the span of like 2 hours. And so during the winter, our largest race was around 100. Last January or March, right? Somewhere in January and March area, we had somewhere around 100 racers show up, maybe. And so we're bettering those numbers in summer. We've got predictions. I mean, we're thinking we're going to have 300 racers show up. We're thinking we're going to have online. We had what, max of almost 1,500 on course. That's got to be at least, I'm thinking double, triple, maybe even more.
Really?
I would think so. I mean, just because of the excitement that's around it right now, how many people who are talking about getting this Zwift, how many people are outside right now are going to go inside and they're going to need something to keep them motivated. I think in all the results, Maddie Heyman, Scotty Weiss, I mean, the results, I think, is the thing that's really going to drive the hardcores, and then that's going to telling all their friends about it, you know, and they're going to be watching, well, how am I going to get faster? And this is something that people are using.
The thing that has changed since the racing went onto the modules, of course, is the starts. You know, and I use the word in inverted commas, the neutralised start is no more. And every race now is that manic, you know, kick-off, full gas right from the flag, cyclocross style race start. It doesn't suit everybody. I have to say I don't like it that much. I much prefer the old neutralised, particularly when they were properly observed. Do you think that style start is going to remain all through the next indoor season, or do you think Zwift are working on a way of giving us the option of having a regulated neutralised start?
I see three options here. You could have a lead-out car as an option that you could select, right?
Yeah.
So then you have this car that kind of leads it out, and then all of a sudden, boom, let's go. I think you just leave it as it is. That's another option where nothing's going to change. And I don't necessarily have too much of a problem with that, but there's a third option, whereas you have a staggered start for the categories that we used to implement prior to the event module. But now it would be more controlled, where you give about a 1 minute between each A, B, C, and D category, which would then cause it so that people who are in the B race would not be able to hang on with the A's at the crazy pace that they're setting right from the get-go. I think it would kind of even things out, and the people who did try and go super hard right from the get-go like that would not get as much benefit from it as they are getting in the lower categories that are trying to go with the leaders at this point. That was a huge hot topic actually in today's stream. Lots of opinions were thrown around about it actually, and there was a bunch of different options that were thrown out there. I think that Zwift's paying attention and will most likely start listening to some of the feedback being given. We'll see though. Yeah.
Well, I think it will develop over the indoor season, and I'm really looking forward to the indoor racing season. I think it's going to be great this year. Now let's hear from our final Zwift Academy graduates. Another one of the ladies who's made it through to the shortlist of 12 riders. Belle Flint, who, like Richie Port, comes from Tasmania. And before you started this, how experienced or otherwise were you as a cyclist? What briefly is your cycling history?
I took up cycling a bit over 3 years ago. I was a marathon runner before that. Had an operation, couldn't get back to running in a hurry, and was told I could ride a bike, so I jumped on the bike and went from there.
So you obviously had a pretty good aerobic base. You came into it quite fit.
I did, yes.
And what happens next?
Well, I don't know. It's all a bit of a surprise. We get some more information. The next part starts on the 19th of this month. So there's another 3 months of training now, and I know they're going to give out information to the semi-finalists with rides that include, obviously, kicker rides, outdoor training rides, more variety. I think they're saying that there'll be 6 rides a week, and obviously it's up to the semi-finalists to do as many of those as they want to and as they can, I guess.
And have you got the motivation to carry on? Because it's going to get harder.
It is going to get harder, but that's really exciting too. The challenge to see, how much can you improve, how far can you push yourself? Because, even just the last 3 months, I've found myself doing things that I didn't know I could do. So that's really exciting in itself.
And why did you enter? What was your ambition in entering? Where did you see this journey finishing if you were successful?
I didn't even consider that I would be successful. I had a crash off my bike in May and split my nose open, and it's been really sensitive, and it's winter time here in Tassie, so I haven't been able to go out and ride in the cold like I normally would through winter. So I just saw it as 3 months of training that would just keep me motivated and on the bike when I couldn't actually get out in the cold air.
Yeah.
And that's as far forward as I looked.
I mean, say you made it to the end.
As I said, I never anticipated that I would have what they wanted. So look, if I make it to the end, then I'll be even more surprised than I am that I've made it this far.
Obviously, if you did make it to the end, maybe some plans might have to change. Who knows?
Yes, quite possibly.
And I mean, could you see yourself as a pro rider?
Who knows? I mean, I was talking to my daughter about this morning. 4 years ago, I didn't even ride a bike. So, anything's possible, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's a great scheme. And what's been your experience on it? One of the great things about Zwift is the kind of way that you become part of a community, and you've become probably, I would imagine, part of a couple of communities, probably the female community and the really, really good riders of that community. Have you noticed that? It sounds funny because we're from all around the world, but it feels like a tight-knit community. You get on and you have a ride and people are chatting while they're online, and you're all in different time zones and different parts of the world, but you've all got something in common, and everybody's chatting and urging each other along. And when the sessions were getting really hard in that 3rd month, you'd get on to the Zwift Academy Facebook stuff and you'd see people encouraging each other and saying how tough it was but how proud of themselves that they got through it, and just the encouragement that all the women were giving each other. That's got to be the biggest benefit of being in something like this. I imagine that's been worth it alone, actually, hasn't it?
Absolutely.
And how have your family reacted to Mum becoming a kind of fairly committed virtual cyclist?
Look, we're all cyclists, so it's a bit of a competition for the kicker at our house, and it's got to be timetabled in. So, no, they're super excited. My daughter had said to me all the way through, "Are you going to get in, Mum? You're going to get in?" And I'm like, no, it's not going to happen. So I got a big "I told you so" today, so that was nice.
And I mean, it's such a cliched question, but I've got to ask it. How did you feel when you got the news?
I was very grateful that there wasn't, that the email didn't have video recording attached to it, because, a 40-year-old jumping up and down excited probably isn't what the world needs to see.
Thanks very much, Belle. It's been lovely to talk to you.
Thanks for having me.
And that's it for this episode of the Zwiftcast. Thanks very much indeed for listening. Thank you, Nathan. Have you got any other business to tidy up just before we go? We should remind people about the stream.
Yeah, just thank you so much for having me on. I always appreciate it. Hello to all the Zwifters out there. Always love to chat to you guys. And we are live now on beam.pro/Nathan Guerra. We are still live on Twitch and YouTube as well, but our main focus is on Beam right now. Everybody's really liking that platform with the immediacy of the stream. It's only like a 1 or 2 second delay. So come check us out. We're having lots of fun racing.
Nathan, lovely to chat to you as always. And I look forward to catching up with you again very soon. And that's it for this episode, Zwifters. Hope you enjoyed it. It just remains for me to say, as ever, thank you very much to Zwift for their generous support, and to remind listeners that even though I'm very grateful for that support, it doesn't influence anything we say on the podcast. Thanks, Zwifters. See you next time.